This is a busy bakery, but 10 years ago it was a pizza shop and the site of one of the worst terrorist attacks in Jerusalem's history. A 23-year-old Palestinian suicide bomber walked in here, blew himself up. He killed 15 Israelis, wounded over 120 others. When Galid Shalit comes home on Tuesday, 2 of the people who helped plan and execute the attack will go free. That's unwelcome news for Arnold and Framit Roth. They lost their 15-year-old daughter, Malka, in that 2001 terrorist attack on the pizza shop. Malka was killed instantly in the explosion.
For people like us who've lost a child to terrorist action and are about to see the terrorists who carried out the crimes go free when they should never have gone free, it's obvious that the complexity of the whole situation has been grotesquely simplified in the public discussion. At times it has seemed here that there's really only one issue. What must we do to free a soldier? As if that issue stands on its own. But of course it doesn't. The decision is being taken by a government, and a government has all kinds of obligations concerning its population, and one of those obligations, way up there at the top, is to keep the society safe.
The Roths are among the few in Israel who are vocally speaking out against the Shalit deal, which will put convicted terrorists back on the streets of Israel and the West Bank.
We're interested in speaking out for issues that we think are being trampled underfoot, speaking out for people who don't know that they are going to be victims of terrorist acts to come. They don't know it because it hasn't happened, and none of us know to whom it's going to happen. Why us? Well, not because we want to see other people miserable, not at all, but because the most shattering of things that can happen has happened to us. It's turned our lives into a very complicated thing.
Right, so you're really doing this as a warning to people in the future about what could happen to them.
That's what I would say. I would say that even more than that, we see ourselves, my wife and I, as self-appointed advocates, not necessarily only for the children, but for people who are going to suffer a terrible loss. They don't know it. None of us know who they are. But it's certain to happen. It's a statistical certainty. When you release 1,000 terrorists, there's been no declaration of peace, there's been no laying down of arms. On the contrary, this is a stunning and magnificent victory for the Hamas in particular, and also for the other Palestinian Arab government.
Roth is outraged that female terrorist Alham Tamimi will be released. She played a central role in the Sbarro bombing that killed his daughter, Malka.
She planned the massacre. She picked the target. She met the bomb, who was a man, a religious fanatic, a young man. She brought him by taxi to the checkpoint that's only a few minutes' drive from where we're sitting right now in North Jerusalem. And then she brought him from the other side of the checkpoint with the bomb concealed inside a guitar case to the site that she had picked out, which was not the Sbarro restaurant, but in fact the 4-way pedestrian crossing at the corner, or at the intersection of King George and Jaffa.
From jail, Tamimi has told Israeli reporters she is not sorry for the attack and that she does not recognize the state of Israel.
I know this woman as much as a person with my experience at her hands can know a person. I know what she stands for, I know what she has said in public, I know her utter lack of remorse, and I know that she says she wants to do it again, and she'll encourage other people to do it again. And I say that makes her more dangerous than anyone else on that list. I don't care what sex she is. In fact, her being a woman, in fact, her being an attractive woman, in fact, her being a woman who's attractive and 31 years old now, with 10 years in an Israeli prison, makes her a very, very dangerous and extremely threatening commodity. Why would we ever want a creature like this out on the streets? So what we've got to do is figure out how many signatures we have by tonight.
The Roths are making a last-ditch effort to keep Tamimi off the streets. They're circulating a petition to remove her name from the prisoner release list.
And we think that if people will understand why we want her off the list, the monster that she is, that they'll understand what's fundamentally wrong with this transaction. We're doing this because we think it's right. We're doing things because we want to do something. You know, living with the murder of a child leaves you in a fairly chronic need to do something constructive rather than not do anything, which is the alternative.
The Roth's petition will be given to sympathetic politicians, but it's not likely to make a difference. The prisoner exchange deal is also not expected to be stopped by appeals to the Israeli Supreme Court. The head of the Israeli army, Lieutenant General Benny Gantz, supported this deal, as did the new head of Israel's internal security, the Shin Bet. They say Israel can handle the threat posed by these militants. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, with modesty, because I'm not in the military and don't really know what they know. On the other hand, there's a fairly clear pattern of behavior where terrible prospects are thought about by the public, and the military says, we'll know how to deal with that when the time comes. Doesn't always work out that way, and we've all paid a fairly steep price for this. How anybody can say that the release of 1,000 terrorists, of whom some 300 are murderers, of whom I don't know how many are like the monster Tamimi, absolutely sworn to do whatever they can to destroy Jewish life, to kill Jews, to fight for the victory, as they see it, of their religion, a very, very pathological outlook on life. How you neutralize people like that, that's really hard for me to figure out.
Roth believes political expediency fueled the Prime Minister's decision to approve the prisoner exchange deal, a move he says shows a lack of spine. Netanyahu defended the decision on moral grounds and said a window of opportunity had to be seized in a region undergoing vast political changes.
This is a picture of everybody together. It's probably one of the only ones you have.
It's one of a handful of pictures that we have. It may even be the only one. Shortly before Malki's death, we celebrated the bat mitzvah of Rivka. And fortunately, we took pictures that evening, and those are among the relatively few pictures we have of Malki with the rest of the family.
Reminders of Malka are everywhere in the Roth home. In her old bedroom, the signs of a teenage girl are still evident on the doors and walls.
When you think of your daughter now, 10 years later, what do you think about?
Malki had an extraordinary dedication to doing good things in the community. She did remarkable things which no one really knows about. With disabled children, with a mother who had a child who was dying. Malki presented herself at the door of that woman in the summer before she died as a mother's helper. She was a tremendously optimistic person. She lived a beautiful life. She was a beautiful person.
The Roths say they too want Galid Shalit to return home to his family and his country, but they ask at what cost. Jordana Miller, JN1, Jerusalem.